This is a bit of a dual review because we're looking at the Steel Legend ARC B580 as well as evaluating the ARC chip itself. In this review, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently to how I've done them in the past. I don't want to use big spreadsheets and graphs. Yes, a lot of you may have liked that, but I really wanted to show you how this card performs. So we're going to look at the card itself, we're going to look at how it performed, and then we're going to jump into the conclusion. Design-wise, it's actually a pretty good-looking or sexy-looking card. The first thing that you'll notice is this has two 8-pin connectors, and if we look at the Intel reference, it only has one. This is because it's an OEM, and what that means in layman's terms is this is ASRock's ARC card. It allows for more power and better cooling. The reference card allows for 190 watts, but the dual 8 pins allows for it to go up to 220. Also, the frequency goes from 2670 to 2800 megahertz. Now, do you need that? That's going to be important in the conclusion. Many of the software features still have issues. Gamers Nexus has actually done a really great video on this, and I still experienced issues like speed sync, smooth sync, and pretty much all the syncs. Intel are behind AMD and Nvidia in terms of drivers and software. It's much better than it was when ARC just launched. And the nice thing is that we are constantly seeing updates being released that are fixing many issues that are present with ARC. If you want to know where this card compares in the global market, on AMD side, 7600, on Nvidia side, 4060, 5060 normals. Now, I don't want to do a price comparison because every single country is different, and it's very difficult for me to say, oh yes, it's good to go for this card or that card or this card. Look at your own market, but also watch this entire video because there's going to be a lot more information in terms of how you should be making this decision, but those are its main competitors. Before we go into the testing, know that I ran 3 games and 2 benchmarks. But what's really important is the footage is not going to look amazing because I didn't have my capture card at the time, so I had to use OBS, which kind of made it look like it's stuttering. I can assure you that it was smooth on my side, and I will explain that as we go through. Quick insert to that, I want you to look at the frame rates and the temperatures, but I'm pretty sure I also said that when we're in the testing. Onto the testing. Okay, before we go into gaming and showing FPS and temperatures, everything so far, what I want to show you is the Intel Command Center for the graphics. I think it's just called Intel Graphics Center or graphics software. There we go. And this is how you're going to ensure, or how you are going to ensure, that your graphics card's drivers are up to date. So you literally install this. I'll put a link in the description so that you can get the latest drivers, but it'll always be available. So you do need to manually go there. I didn't see any prompt for this, but I digress. Note that you will see a different CPU that you may have seen in other shots before. This is because I changed the system. So this is a Threadripper Pro. Also, if the camera's bouncing, apologies. This is on a, well, the monitor is on an ARM, so if it does bounce, sorry for the Blair Witch. You got to do what you got to do. But we're running on a Threadripper Pro 64 core. Now note that while we do gaming, the OBS is going to be capturing, so this might put pressure on the graphics card. I've put everything that I humanly can onto the CPU so that it doesn't affect it that much, but do take that into consideration. But that's what it looks like. We have profiles and we'll be able to see our games. We've got graphics in which we got XCSS frame generation. Naturally, this is application choice, but you can force it. Frame synchronization, application choice, but you could put VSync on, off, smooth sync, smart sync, FPS limiter, and low latency mode. Then we go on to display, and we'll have hue, saturation, brightness, contrast, quantization range, color depth, color format, all of that. My screen is actually 10-bit or 8-bit. We can see it's an Agon 32 4 UWS4R 4B, but we can see everything there. Graphics adapter, Intel ARC, we through display port, variable refresh is not supported, HDDP is, so is 4K because it's a 4K monitor, and HDR is disabled. I don't like HDR personally. If you do, good for you. I just feel that you're always having to tweak it, and Windows has different variations and screens have its own built-in HDR. I personally just don't like it, but you know, each to their own. And then we have video, and you can basically just choose bright and dark and custom on how you want your video. Notifications, simple, straightforward. And then we got settings, and in settings, it's going to tell you everything about your system. The XE course is 20, rebars enabled, and so on and so forth. Always make sure you have rebar enabled as far as humanly possible. It's just better. Don't need to explain that, but there, you've got all the information. We can go into software information, not going to go on that. Then we've got preferences, also self-explanatory. If you don't know anything, just ask. I have answered every single question put in the channel to date. I have not replied to everyone because it's very hard to keep track of that. But again, I digress. We've got support and about. Now we go into Presenmon. And this is how we are going to be looking at the games and all of that. So I've put it on GPU focus, but I'm probably just going to be doing a custom so that we can see temperatures, and it's going to be in the overlay the whole time, and we're just going to talk through some gameplay. I don't want to do benchmarks because there are so many different benchmarks out there. We're testing this card in particular, so we want to see how this card's cooling or not integrated cooling, because it's a 3-fan, it's a nice thick BV card, and not all B580s are going to operate the same. That's why we have different manufacturers, we have different standards. So let's see how this card performs, and we're going to test it in a couple of games. We're going to test it in Fallout 4. Why? Because I've been playing that lately. I missed out when it first came out. And then we'll test it in something like Age of Empires, just to show you something that would utilize CPU a bit more, but this utilizes GPU more. So my GPU or CPU utilization in this game is generally 1 to 2%, and CPUs to 1 to 2%, GPUs 98, 99, 100%. So we'll go through all of that, and I will show you that, and you'll be able to see that on the left hand side as we're going through. Naturally, I am in a 4K monitor, so I'm going to be adjusting settings as we go in. It did automatically set to ultra for Fallout 4. It's basically just says, okay, cool, we're putting it to ultra. So just note that as we change settings and we look at ray tracing and so on. Okay, here we are in game, and we can see the frames and temperatures, everything. So if you are looking for it, it is frames on top with the average 1% low being red. Then we have the GPU temperature. They're sitting at 41 degrees and usage. Now, we don't have the ability to change settings because they took this away in a patch, Bethesda did, and I'll show you if we go to display, there's nothing to change here. So this is set to 4K in Ultra. So let's continue and let's play. Now this might be a little bit laggy, it's just because of the encoder from OBS. I've done my best to get this as smooth as possible, so we should more be focusing on the frames, and 60 frames is pretty generally good. Now we're sitting at 107 frames, and this is obviously static. As soon as I move or do anything a little bit wild, it might be stuttering for you. It's actually very smooth for me, but relatively good. Now let's get into an action scene. Okay, I'm going to cook that lady first because normally she toasts me. I've actually been here 3 times and I finished it and then I fell off the building. So let's go sneak. I'm getting shot from somewhere. There we go. Come on. Playing rather well. Coming out. Okay. Whoops, that's a wall. Can't go through that. There's normally someone down there. Where are you? So 114 frames at 4K Ultra, not bad at all. Obviously, we are having lows and dips, but you need to keep your eye on that. I'm trying to not die here. But I will walk through that in a second. Okay, someone below me. It's still sticking at about 130 frames. And it's... Hey! That wasn't nice. Whoops. I saw them. I tried to go for that gun over there, and that killed me. That's only worked it out. But yeah, sitting at relatively good frames. Temperature of the GPU sitting at a cool 61, and it's summer in Cape Town. So we know that this has got some real legs doing the whole big turning, but note that we are in a, call it closed world over here. So that will have a major impact. If we do go to open world, that will be a little bit more strenuous, but pretty good on this, and we'll test another game now. But yeah, sitting at relatively good frames, temperature of the GPU sitting at a cool 61, and it's summer in Cape Town. So we know that this has got some real legs. Doing the whole big turning, but note that we are in a, call it closed world over here. So that will have a major impact. If we do go to open world, that will be a little bit more strenuous, but pretty good on this, and we'll test another game now. Okay, now for Age of Empires, everything looks great. The menu looks great, and I've tried a lot of things. I'm getting to the point of graphics.
at 4K, I've tried 1440, I've tried 1080, I've adjusted every image quality, I've tried different loadings from DX12, I've tried forcing the graphics card to boot in eco mode, in full performance mode, and nothing has worked. I also cannot find a fix for this. This is just one of the unfortunate things behind Intel Arc, is that they're not optimized for every game. I'll explain what I mean. So first, let's turn on the frame counter. Now, single player, and we're just going to continue a mission. It's going to fast forward through this, otherwise you're going to have to hear a lot of jibber jabber. So irrespective of that, we're sitting at about 123 frames at 4K in the highest settings. So if shaders were loading, I'm hoping that this would be the performance, probably not. But we can see that it looks like a bit of a toaster, and if I change the resolutions, it's just going to change what happens on the screen, and it's just going to look worse and worse. So if we go with all of our troops here, we can see that the frames aren't dropping too much, but again, we don't have a real optimization here for Age of Empires 4. So if you are planning to buy this graphics card and you do want to play this game, you're going to have to settle for these kind of graphics until it is all sorted on their side. I'm also charging in horses into pikemen, which is not my best move. Okay, now for Counter-Strike 2, we're just going to settings to see where we are here. Just had to do a few things in order for this to be able to be captured. Put this to full screen and refresh rate 144. Then for our advanced settings, we're just going to put this on very high so that everyone has the same settings. And we're able to actually gauge the FPS with a preset. Ooh, DPI is very low. Resolution. Uh, 1440, and let's apply. Okay, immediately a recovery to 123 frames. I just want to see what it looks like for you guys. 130 frames on full settings at 1440, and this looks great. Still a low temperature, 53 degrees. That did not feel very bot-like. And it looks really, really good. Oh lord. Oh, at least you know I'm not hacking. Maybe I am. Ah, guess he got his game back. Oh, or not. Okay, now what we want to do is lastly run Timespy Extreme and Timespy. So we're going to start with Extreme and then look at the results thereafter. Let's look at the results. Now, Legendary is obviously, because it's taking the CPU score into factor, we're not going to be looking at that. It's 135 FPS, but it's taking a lot of the pressure off. There's basically no bottleneck on the GPU whatsoever. But what we do need to look at here is when the GPU load is at 100%, and it does so here and it does so here. Now the max temperature that we can see is 56, 57, 58, and then over here it goes to about 62. So this suggests that this card is operating relatively freely and has room for, dare I say it, a overclock, that we can push far more out of this GPU than we're actually seeing here. Now let's see what happens with normal Timespy. And let's run Timespy. Okay, now for Timespy normal, and we have Legendary again, and the scores are a little bit more similar, but let's go down to the same sort of results, where GPU load actually doesn't really hit a full complement of 100% until around about this point where it's 99.63, and still the GPU is running at 58 degrees. It hits a little bit higher here, 99.57, but temperature there of 55.98. So again, this card doing extremely well temperature wise under pressure and under full load.
Now, as far as recommendations go, this card did really well. It achieved good frames and low temperatures, but the dual 8-pin seems overkill for now. The issues that I experienced with Age of Empires 4 did suck a bit. I tried different load settings or launch settings. I tried every single setting in the game. I tried settings outside the game, and nothing seemed to work. The final note would be, should you or shouldn't you? And in South Africa, we have a saying, and that saying is, Eish. Intel seems committed to supporting gamers, which is not currently the case with Nvidia. So in buying this, it's investing in a platform that's trying to invest in you as a gamer. For me, the ARC platform is still only recommended for users who are willing to troubleshoot, tweak, and tinker until ARC becomes a stable platform. So what I've done as a recommendation is I've created 3 scenarios for people that should buy this card. The first one, you like to troubleshoot and fixing issues because most can be fixed. The second, the games you play have no issues and you don't plan to change games anytime soon. The third type of person is like the video, you can accept that some games work well and others don't. If none of these apply, stick to Nvidia or AMD for now. Now for the last question, should you get something like the Steel Legend or something like the Challenger? For me, I would go for the Steel Legend. This is because Intel hasn't reached a peak yet. There may be efficiencies in the future where you can actually be able to utilize the cooling as well as the power that this card has. Yes, it may not be the case at the moment because it's identical performance, but you're making an investment in the future where Intel, if they've shown anything, is that they are improving. So that's the card that I would go with because it costs an extra 1,000 Rand in South Africa, and you may be able to use that in the future. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Cheers guys, goodbye.